Good evening, everyone.
Good
A
morning.
very warm welcome to our brand new episode of Meet a Member series. I am Rajni Nameja, your host for the evening. As a quick introduction, I'm a CFA charter holder and a volunteer with the CFA Society India. And as a part of day job, I work with ICICI Bank into fixed income space. So, friends, as all of you know, that our Meet a Member series has a very unique objective to provide you direct access to the industry experts. With that in mind, we have today's guest with us, Mr. Binod Shankar. He's a CFA charter holder and a chartered accountant. With his experience of over 2 decades, he has seen a full circle with a senior positions into consulting, corporates. Now he's into his entrepreneurship stint. He's frequently seen on CNBC and Bloomberg with his expert views on market. And last but not the least, he has one more dimension to his personality, that he's an athlete. So without much ado, I would hand over the session to Binod Shankar. So while we are listening to the interesting conversation by Binod, I would request each one of you not to forget to post your questions on the chat box. Today is a unique day wherein you have an opportunity to directly interact with the Binod.
Right. Hi. Thanks, Rajni, and thanks to CFA India Society for organizing this. I hope all of you can hear me clearly. So good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Right. Right now in Dubai. If you're in India, good evening. And before I start, a few housekeeping things. I mean, you're all on mute, so please post your questions on the group. Once I stop talking, then you can ask questions. You'll be unmuted and you can ask questions directly to me. At the end of the session, a link to this presentation will be posted on the group chat. So you don't need to take down notes. That will save you time. So you just need to listen and ask and interact and things like that, right? So some ground rules. Thank you so much again for joining today. We have a decent crowd of people. And today I'm not going to talk about technical stuff, right? No FRA or equities or level 2 or level 3 or anything, right? It's about my career journey and my education journey. And I'm going to be totally honest, and I hope that will deliver some insight and inspiration for you as well. So I'm going to sort of carve up my journey in 3 phases, the 3 phases of my education and career life. And the first phase, I would say, starts from when my schooling and my going on to my college days, right? So that I wanted to understand where I came from and how I progressed and what mistakes I've made and what I've learned from it. And towards the end, I will talk about 10 tips on education and career as well, right? Before we go to the Q&A. So the first phase, and some of you may not know this about me, but I didn't, well, I'm a single child, single mom, no siblings. And you might think that probably explains a lot of my behavior, right? I also didn't grow up in India, right? I grew up in Nigeria, in West Africa. My mother was a college professor there. So I was there from age 6 to age 15, almost 8.5, 9 years, British curriculum. So didn't do my schooling in India at all. I came back to India when I was 15. Did pretty well in high school when I was in Nigeria. We had this University of London ordinary level, and I had 3 A's and 2 B's, pretty good scores, right? And then I came back when I was 15, in about 1984. And from then onwards, I had a very bad academic performance, right? So what we call the pre-degree was just 64% score in 1985, because I tried to lump 2 years together in 1 year. I didn't focus on right topics. I ignored mathematics, although I was in the science group. So it was a complete mess, right? And of course, adjusting to almost like a different culture in a way, because I grew up outside the country, right? That was quite difficult for me. So that was there. I failed. I wrote my engineering entrance exam. I failed, believe it or not, because my mathematics score was pathetic in the pre-degree. So you had to get a good math score of 50%, which I didn't get, right? Because I didn't study maths. I was not focused. So of course, then what I did was, I joined BCom. Again, even worse performance in BCom, right? You can see a slope, right? Good scores in high school, lower scores in pre-degree, even lower score in BCom with a second class, 52%. Basically, I didn't study, right? I hardly went to college. I was cutting classes, not doing anything particular. Basically, watching India-Pakistan cricket matches and reading novels and watching films on what we call video then, right? That was again, so another 3 years wasted, 85 to 88. A lot of my friends got first class and I came out of the second class, right? I wrote the common admissions test for IIMs. I failed that in 1988, the same year that I finished my BCom. I wrote CAT again in 1989. I passed CAT, but I failed the interview stage because my, social skills, my experience of, the world of finance, my experience in interviewing was just, zero. So I got nowhere, right? And so at that point in time, I was about 20 then, zero extracurricular activities, no sports, nothing related to fitness, very few friends, and believe it or not, a painfully shy introvert, right? I had almost no friends apart from my cousin, and you can't call a cousin your friend, right? I mean, he comes along with a package, he's a relative. So that was me. Unknown, obscure, unambitious, naive, inexperienced, no idea what to do in life, no idea of a specific career, and what kind of jobs to look for, what kind of colleges to aim at, nothing, right? No mentors, no coaches, no role models around me as well. Given that, I grew up, I was studying in Trivandrum, which is the capital city of Kerala, which was then and even now is a backwater, right? Compared to metros like Chennai or Mumbai or Delhi. So there I was, right? And this is my first 20 years of my life, right? So apart from that, point number 3, good scores in high school, everything else was pathetic academically and even otherwise. So as a person and as a student, I hadn't done anything significant, right? So that is phase 1 of my life, okay? Then we moved to phase 2, right? Starting in about the same time, 1989, when I was 20. And that was when I decided that enough is enough, right? You can only go so much. I mean, I can talk about this for a long time, but I had this probably eureka moment at some point, when I was applying for an assistant accountant job in some obscure manufacturing company in Kerala, right? And I thought, what the hell am I doing here? And I said I had to do something. So I joined the CA, Chartered Accountancy, in 1989, February, articleship. And I went about it with a vengeance, right? Complete focus, no distractions. I had to pass CA. The CA was like a do or die for me. It was like, I knew I was good enough. I knew I was smart. Just wasn't applying myself. I just was being unfocused over the last many years. So as a result, I passed CA in first attempts in 1992, all 4 groups. In fact, I worked as an industrial trainee for the last 1 year because as per the rules in CA, if you finish your intermediate before 2 years, you can spend the last 1 year as an industrial trainee. You leave your principal's firm, you work in a big company. So I worked with Life Insurance Corporation of India in their Trivandrum district office. That is good. So I learned a lot in the CA. CA is actually what changed me, if you ask me. It gave me massive confidence. It sort of made me believe in myself. It got me my first mentor, who was actually the partner of the firm, of the small firm where I articled in. I found that I could talk to clients, present to clients with absolute confidence and competence. And that is where, at the age of 19, 20, 21, that I fortunately, because of the right circumstances, I changed. And I never looked back after that, right? That was like, so I owe a lot to the CA experience, even now after almost 3 decades. Then, of course, I got a job in the industrial bank. I was the youngest manager there. I was the only one picked out of 150 applicants, all of who are chartered accountants. But I did very well in the interview. Then I joined Deloitte India as auditor, 1998, KPMG Oman in 1998, that time. I came to Dubai as audit senior, double promotion at Anderson and EY in that 2-year period. Another double promotion when I joined Nakheel, which is a large government property development company in Dubai. I joined as manager, but got double promotion to director, right? which is again a big jump. Then I did my CFA. Now, the reason I did my CFA was not for career purposes, weird as it sounds, right? I did it because I wanted a foreign qualification. Indian CA is, well, it's Indian CA, right? And I love the curriculum because it's so different, yet a good complement to the CA qualification. CA is about audit and tax and accounting and costing, and CFA is, you build on that, right? Valuation, analysis. So I love the curriculum when I went through it. I had the time. So I said, you know what, let me do it. And just like my CA, I didn't take it lightly. Every attempt was like, I had to do it. I can't fail. I don't want to open the Kaplan or Schweser books again. That was my whole plan. So I passed. My level 1 was in December 2003. Level 2 was in June 2004. Level 3 was in June 2005. I finished all 3. And then I moved from Nakheel, became executive director at a large listed asset management company in Bahrain. I was looking after the whole MENA region, Middle East, North Africa. I had a team of about 20 reporting to me. That was my last corporate job, 2009. At what point I was actually 40 years of age. They say people do crazy things when they are 40, right? Like buy a Porsche or do something extravagant or unusual. Well, I decided to quit corporate life at that point. I had enough after about 17 years. And I co-founded and led a CFA training company called Genesis between 2009 and 2017. But one of the best decisions I made was to leave corporate life because I love teaching and I was very good at teaching and very good students as well. And a few of my students ex-students are actually on this call today. I see Pratish here. Hi, Pratish. And the company was acquired because it was quite successful, very well respected, high quality training, quite a few large corporate clients like Saudi Aramco, for example, the world's largest oil company. The company was acquired in 2017 by Kaplan, the guys who publish the Schweser books, and they do tons of other things, right? It's a $2 billion global conglomerate. So it was acquired by Kaplan. I stayed on for 1 more year as managing director. And of course, in between, I qualified as an executive coach from the UK. It's a tough qualification called the level 7 qualification. I finished that, and because I wanted to be a coach as well, more than just be a CFA trainer. So that's my phase 2, right? And you can see the sharp difference between phase 2 and phase 1. Sorry, Rajni. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So if I see one key thing which happened with you is getting your mentors early on in your career, maybe around the age of 20, 21. So Can you throw some light around the fact, how critical or important it is to get your mentors at the earliest, if we have not gotten till now, and how to go about it?
Yeah, good question, Rajni. So I suppose I was lucky to get that mentor because, so how important is it, your first question? And second question was how to go about it, right? So how important is it? I think it's very important because, especially for me at that stage of my life, I lack confidence in myself, given my pathetic academic record till then, right? And for someone to believe in you and to say, wow, you have some skills that no one else has, and I'm going to give you responsibility and assignments. That was like a big thing for me. I mean, I was a junior most person in the audit team, and I was being given assignments which even my seniors weren't getting, like valuations and due diligence and big bank audits. And the reason was because of my communication skills. I used to speak as I do even now and write quite fluently because I didn't grow up in India. I grew up, like I said, British curriculum in Nigeria, right? So that impressed the heck out of my principal. And so the way I went about it was, there was no structure to it, Rajni. I mean, I joined the firm. I think I started interacting with there were 2 partners. I started interacting with the managing partner. He quickly noticed that, I was presentable and I could speak to clients. So he could take me along to client meetings, which is of course always good for the partnership, right? To say that they have some depth in the firm. And he could trust me with major assignments, which was also, he needs to delegate, right? He can't do everything himself. So I suppose I was at the right time with the right people.
So the key is to be communicative of the relevant things at the right moment.
I think the key is, to find the right people and just connect with them. And thankfully, I got a very open-minded boss, a senior chartered accountant who like to mentor youngsters. You have to have both, right? Yes, you're looking for a mentor, maybe unconsciously, but you also want someone who likes to coach or groom youngsters. And luckily, he was there at that time in my life.
Right. And another thing which you mentioned in your story till now, that you have got double promotions couple of times, right?
Correct.
So what is the secret to that?
Secret of that was performing very well and aggressively demanding for it. After a particular stage, I never waited for promotions to come to me. I would go and say, you know what, this is what I've done. This is what we agreed that I would do. And you told me specifically 6 months ago that if I did this, and this, I would get promoted, right? So, and it all happened because once I didn't get promoted when I thought I would after a year initially. And I asked my managers and they all gave me different feedback, right? Like some said, you spend too much time on audits, or some people said, you need to focus on this and that. So I did all that, went back to them after 6 months, and the partner said, well, you've ticked all the boxes. Here you go. I'm promoting you now. So I think the key thing is to have a dialogue with your bosses, not be scared of them, and be open-minded. In fact, one of my points I want to cover later. Be very open-minded as to feedback and don't take it personally, and work on it. Yeah. Shall I go on, Rajni?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So that is phase 2, right? You can say almost like a turnaround story, going from a distressed company to, a successful company, like you see, in finance.
Right.
And then phase 3 was nothing really to do with academics or education or career. It's basically my extracurricular activities, which again picked up after I crossed my, maybe 25, 26 years of age. So my first extracurricular activity was becoming a trainer. And that's, of course, why I set up Genesis about, 20 years later, right? Or 15 years later. So I used to teach CA part-time. I used to teach intermediate CA and final CA. And I used to love it. So I was 27 at that time, and I was teaching people like 3 years younger than me, right? Who was studying the CA program. That is, great confidence booster. It honed my skills as a trainer. My first article in a major newspaper appeared in 2003 in Gulf News on properties, and then became a column after that. Appeared every month, every 2 weeks. My first cycling adventure was in 2008 in South Africa. Then I became board member of CFA Emirates Society in the UAE in 2008. I was vice president then. My first skydive was in 2008 in the US. I went on a trip there. So scared, I will never do it again, but I think you should try to tick that box, right? My first full marathon was in 2011 in Dubai, Stand Chart, 42.2 kilometers. My first major mountain was also in 2011, Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. My first bungee jump was in 2013 on my birthday. Again, something I won't do again, but one of those boxes that I felt had to be ticked. This was, by the way, in Rishikesh in Uttarakhand in India, 80 meters into the Ganges River. My first appearance as a market analyst was on CNBC in 2014. And now, of course, I do CNBC and Bloomberg. Bloomberg started early this year. And the podcast that I launched called The Real Finance Mentor was kicked off in 2019. I'm sure I've missed out quite a few other things in this. I wanted to keep it to 10 points, right? I don't want to have it 11 or 13 points. So 10 important points that I thought, right? So going back to the adventure bit, right? Outdoor stuff. So I've done quite a bit of mountaineering. Starting in 2011, I got this passion. A friend said, you know what, you run the marathon, let's do a mountain together. So in a momentary lapse of reason, I said yes. And over the last 10 years, I've probably done about 13 mountains. This is my highest so far, Mera Peak in Nepal, 6,476 meters. Stock Kangri in Ladakh was that was my first 6,000 meter mountain in 2012. This picture is of me in Kilimanjaro. The picture is taken with a BlackBerry phone, so the quality is not wow, as you can imagine, right? In those days, but great picture. It does not describe in any way how tough it was to get to the top. I collapsed on the way, and luckily someone was there behind me to give me some pick-me-ups. This was at Gokyuri, which is also called the Alternative Everest Base Camp. So the mountain you see at the very back, the pyramid-shaped mountain, is Everest. And the entire Everest range you can see behind me, right? Nuptse, Lhotse. The mountain on the right, the pyramid-shaped mountain on the extreme right, clear is Makalu, another 8,000-meter monster. So that was in December 2013. So yeah, that is and quite a few others. And cycling was something I liked. My first cycling adventure was in South Africa, right? It's called the Cape Argus race. It's a beautiful race. It goes through towns, cities, vineyards, ostrich farms, beaches, cliff sides, starts in a city, ends in a city. And that's when I picked up this whole love for cycling, right? And then I started cycling regularly. Did something in 2014, 5 days back-to-back cycling, Pune to Goa. That is something I would probably think twice before doing it, because I was on painkillers on 4 out of the 5 days. Manali to Leh was an outstanding adventure, which is probably the most remarkable adventure I've had. It was cycling from Manali to 5 mountain ranges and passes to Leh, and then go to Kadungla and back. But we had a team, right? We had a full team of what do you call, cooks and drivers, and there were 20 of us. So that was like unbelievable adventure. Cycling through Ladakh with mountains on both sides is like amazing. Same thing in Ladakh in 2018, right? With the same crew. So yeah, so that is basically what I used my extracurricular activities. I want to sort of wrap this up with 10 tips each on education and career. What I think was very important, what really worked for me, right? Some of the tips are self-explanatory. I don't need to describe it in detail. Some, and Rajni, feel free to jump in, right? If you have any questions to ask me. So my experience of education, right? Know the why before the how and what. Why are you doing CA? Why are you doing CFA? Why are you doing CMA, right? A lot of us jump into it because parents said so, family said so, friends said so. Same thing, right? I did CA because, hey, friends said so, right? Do CA. I did that. I had no clue. I would do differently probably this time around, right? Avoid badge collection. I mean, everyone likes, they get the CFA, then they do FRM, then they do Kaya, then they do CMA, then they will do something else, right? I mean, so I think it's just a waste of time because there's no clear purpose why you're doing it, right? You're just trying to start or stand out or whatever, right? Don't imitate the crowd. You can never stand out if you imitate the crowd. If everyone is doing something and you join them, where's the difference, right? Whether it's qualifications or skills or whatever. I never like to be part of the crowd. That's just me. So a lot of things you see, what I've done are pretty, I wouldn't say extraordinary, but they always make me look like an outlier. That's probably partly by design because I hated just being part of the crowd and doing exactly what the average person did, right? Qualifications are not everything, right? It's really funny I say that because when I finished my CA in 1992, right? I still remember writing my name, Binod Shankar, and below that, chartered accountant. And I remember telling myself, ho gaya, bas, life is over, that's it. I'm 23, I've qualified as a chartered accountant, first attempt. There's nothing else in life. I've made it. Now I realize how stupid and naive that is looking back, right? But yeah, that's what happens to you when you're young and foolish, right?
Without a bit of pause here. So,
Sure.
I appreciate the idea that before doing any qualification, one has to know why it is to be done or avoiding badge collection. Now, you imagine some person who are, in their early 20s or maybe when college or somebody decides to do some qualification, either C or CFA. At that age, how to go about it? Because what typically happens is that your parents tell you, as you said, that or you whatever the qualification or let's say if we consider today's scenario, every other pass out wants to be in fintech because that field is in vogue right now.
Correct.
So that applies to every 4 years, a new field comes into vogue at some point in time. So investment banking right now is fintech. How are there any basic building blocks which somebody will keep in mind to decide their career path?
A good question, Rajni. Look, there are certain things I wished I had done, which I didn't do, but I can sort of impart the wisdom now, right? which is I wished I had gone to college and been more active in college and learned more in college beyond the curriculum, right? And which is why I tell young college goers even now, right? Which is what, there's a lot of stuff you can do in college. Find out what you want to do. Ask your professors, attend competitions, right? Get internships before you graduate, if possible. Track markets, read a lot, Financial Times, Economic Times, whatever, right? I did nothing of this. So just as a fair warning, right? I wished I had, because then by that time, Rajni, by the time you graduate, you know something about careers, right? And you have a broad idea of what investment banking or asset management or private banking means broadly. You should. I think that's the starting point. Because I find a lot of people who come out of the college have no clue sometimes of these things, of the basics of financial services, as an example. And hence, of course, they lose it in CFA and they are at a disadvantage. But apart from that part, I think college is the best place where you can connect with people, you network, you can get professors as your mentors. In fact, in the US at least, and maybe in Europe as well, the first place or the first time where people hear about the CFA qualifications from their college professor. So if you go to a good college and have a professor who is interested in mentoring and whatever, then they're fantastic, right? That is the my advice. And then you can say, you know what? So I know people who finished their college, done their accountancy or finance degree, and clearly said, I don't want to do investment banking, or I don't want to do chartered accountancy, or I don't want to do CFA. And they have their own path because they've already talked to people. It's another thing you could do, right? Talk to people, talk to practitioners, through your family connections or through your college or through, if your college invites speakers to come to the college, fantastic. Talk to them, right? Connect with them. Mm-hmm. So I think these days, especially Rajni, with internet and Facebook and emails and LinkedIn and everything else, it's so much easier than 3 decades ago when I was studying, right? I think people have no excuse now to be aware of what's out there.
Mm-hmm. And the question, if I have to sum up one thing which is key to your personality in your phase 2 especially, it's your confidence, right? Taking a different decision every time, moving to the next step. Correct. So now, as you mentioned that, you were into a particular kind of education system that kind of helped you to build the confidence. Now, assume a person who is pretty average on the confidence scale. Any tips for them to build on the confidence? If you have it, nothing like it. But what about the people who don't have or who don't have into the circumstances who have made them a confident individual?
Yeah, this is something I see. I mean, it's a great question, Rajni, because this is something I see. I mean, a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn, email, WhatsApp, right? Ask me exactly the same thing, right? I lack confidence. I have low self-esteem. I failed in a lot of things in my life, college, school, whatever, right? And I don't know what to do next. I'm lost. Now, this is very difficult to say without knowing the background of the person, of course, right? So it's very difficult to recommend. But I think it's very important to get someone to believe in you. And if that's not possible, you need to believe in yourself, right? At some point. Now, in my case, I knew I was not a duffer, right? I'd done very well in high school. So I knew I was bright, which means that whatever happened between my high school and, BCom and all those failures was mostly down to my being lazy. It wasn't lack of aptitude. It was lack of attitude. So I think in your mind, you got to figure out what is going wrong here. What is missing? Is it attitude or aptitude? Or is it worst case, both, which is very rare, of course. And of course, if it is the attitude thing, that's probably, in my view, easier to fix because you already got the foundation of the right attitude, then you can change. That's what I would advise, right? A lot of introspection, a lot of self-awareness at that stage is required. I decided that, I couldn't live like that, like be an accounting clerk, right? Knowing that this is my background, I've done something way back in school, so I knew there was something there. So that sort of made me work quite hard in my CA and clear CA in the first attempt, right? But I think low self-confidence is something that you see a lot. Another reason for low self-confidence, Rajni, is the fact, for example, that people have poor communication skills, right? Poor English speaking skills, to be specific. Now, that's something you can improve on, right? English is not a tough language, one of the easiest languages to learn. Admittedly, it's not that easy to pick up, once you cross 18, 20, it gets more difficult, but it is not impossible. I think a lot of people haven't worked on that. And to be honest, there's so many tools out there where you can improve your spoken and written English and make such a huge difference to employers and even to your personality and to your confidence, right? One reason I was very confident is because I knew I was very good at communicating. So even when I was like, my 12, 15, I used to write essays in school and stuff. And I used to always score high in English. So I knew I was good on that. That particular strength sort of stood me during the tough times, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, that helped me a lot. I think everyone has one or two strengths. They probably don't realize it. Probably not. No one has told them about it yet, but they need to find that. They probably will find it.
Sure.
Yeah. So going on. Again, so CA, I speak about CA, and someone asked me earlier during the session, before the session, saying, do you mean CFA or CA? I said, no, I don't mean CFA. I mean CA, right? I'm not saying you should do CA, right? Or that's compulsory or mandatory. But for me, doing CA was fantastic because once you get the chartered accountancy qualification, you can pretty much enter any industry, right? CFA is like, what do you say, is a master's, but it's niche, it's focused. CA is not focused. You can work in investment, asset management, industry, trading, manufacturing, whatever. So I think that gave me a good foundation. And CA curriculum anyway covers a lot of stuff, right? So that was pretty good that of doing that at an early age. I think I enjoyed the learning process more in CFA than CA. CA, I did that because I needed a job. I needed a success under my belt, right? And in India, it's of course very competitive. So you need to have a solid qualification. But I truly enjoyed the process in my CFA journey, which is why I started CFA in the first place in 2003. And I think that makes a big difference because a lot of the time in CFA at least, right? During my class, I used to see people saying, my God, derivatives is boring or quants is boring, or I hate this topic, or FRA is just too dull. And then if you lack passion for the topic, you really won't learn that much. You won't be curious enough. And then it's easy to fail. So I think for me, I always did enjoy valuation, FRA and ethics and quant for my favorite topics, even now, right? Things like that. So that makes a difference. And also what I try to do was when you learn, link it to what I call business reality, right? Link it to what's happening around you. Especially in CFA, look at annual reports, earnings calls, newspaper articles. There's so much around you, right? What's happening, Facebook, Amazon, Reliance, whatever, right? Try and link it. And research has proven that relevance leads to motivation. In other words, if you find something relevant to real world when you're studying, it'll motivate you to study more. And a lot of the reason why people give up or are disgusted with topics is because, hey, they can't see the link to reality. Like I used to hate derivatives and I still don't love derivatives because I never practiced derivatives. I never could see the application in real life, at least to me, right? So that is one example, right? And then two differentiators, right? Differentiate between theory and practice and differentiate between knowledge and skills. Let me talk about the first one, right? So you study about a lot of topics in CA or CFA, right? But what you learn, how it is practiced are two different things. You might learn about DCF and multiples method of valuation, right? As silos, but when you do proper valuation, you might actually do 2 or 3 different methods and do an average or something like that, right? You basically pick and choose based on the industry, on the company, on the size, on the age of the company, things like that, right? That you learn in practice. The theory you already picked up, right? Or for example, you're trying to find out the cost of equity. And you know the formula from theory, right? The CAPM formula, right? Risk-free rate plus beta into equity risk premium. But how do you calculate the equity risk premium? How do you calculate beta? Where do you get the risk-free rate from? Especially when the company is in, say, Dubai or Mumbai, right? Not in the US, So that again is practice. That is point number 8, right? differentiate between knowledge and skills. And I think this is fundamental because a lot of us, right, especially in India, we love knowledge, right? Knowledge for its own sake and knowledge for how people see us, right? But we don't give enough attention to skills, whether it is technical skills or soft skills. So as an example, right, knowledge of valuation, we study that in CFA, right? Level 1, level 2, whatever, equity valuation, bond valuation, whatever. But the skills like financial modeling skills, you don't bother too much, right? Because you think the knowledge alone is enough, which is what you find is not enough when you go to a job interview or they're asked to do a case study and come up with a valuation quickly. So report writing skills, financial modeling skills on the technical side, right? Coding skills, if you fancy programming. On the soft skills side, I could go for hours talking about communication skills and empathy and negotiation skills and analytical skills and things like that, right? A lot of things required. So I think this two different things, right? Skills and knowledge are two different things. At university in CA and CFA, it's knowledge, not skills. Skills is what happens when you go to work. You learn on the job, and these days you can learn a lot of things online as well, right? A lot of online providers are there, even for financial modeling, especially in financial modeling as an example, right? The last, of course, is learning is continuous, right? You don't finish learning when you leave college or you finish CFA program. I see a lot of my former CFA students, once they finish level 3, that's it. They don't open the books again. They don't go through refresher readings brought out by CFA Institute regularly. They don't keep themselves up to date. If you're not up to date and then you try to change jobs, for example, you'll stand out as someone who's not desirable, right, for the recruiter, as an example. So these are my 10 education tips, right? Quickly go through the 10 career tips as well. Manage your career. It's not your boss or the HR manager or your parents. It's your job. It's your life. It's your career. You can't outsource it to somebody else. See, what happens in India is we outsource everything in our life, right? From the moment from the kindergarten to college to marriage, your parents decide for you. And that goes into career as well, where we say, you know what, we will leave it to somebody else and you hope for the best. In career, hoping for the best will not work out. So you got to decide, what you're going to do, where you're going to do it, which job, which location, everything. And not rely on mom and dad or uncle and aunt or nephews or cousins to do it for you. It happens a lot where people either outsource it or neglect it completely. Right? Number 2, ask for feedback and work on it. Like I told you in my journey in Anderson and E&Y, right? I knew I didn't get the promotion. I asked for feedback. I worked on it. I got the promotion. Some of the feedback, especially if it is very harsh, can feel humiliating and you might, if you're too sensitive, it'll hurt you. But if the person is saying the right intent, it can only help you. And the key thing is we should learn not to take it personally. I think a lot of us tend to take criticism very personally instead of taking it as an opportunity for improvement, right? I talked about point number 3. I don't want to stress it. I've already talked about it enough. I think of all the soft skills that are important, I think communication comes right at the top, because before people see how competent you are or how collaborative you are or how creative you are, the very first thing they will notice is your communication skills. How do you present yourself? How do you speak? How do you write? And if you develop that, you're a winner in life. I can promise you that, right? As long as you have some basic, adequate technical skills. Number 4, technical skills for getting into a job, getting into a career. But if you want to grow in your career, you better be good with people. A lot of us lack social skills because we were brought up in a sheltered, conservative, blah, blah, blah household. That is the nature of the beast. But that's not an excuse once you move into real life, right? You need to know how to deal with people. You need to be curious about people, empathetic with people. You need to care about people. That is something I see a lot of youngsters struggling with. They're very task and technical focused. Pass exams, get a job, work hard, technically very good. Social skills, abysmal, right? You need to work on that. And something that I learned the hard way is point number 5 when I was a manager, right? You hear all this cute little memes on social media, right? Like say, treat people like you want to be treated. No, you treat people like they want to be treated, not like you want to be treated. Each person is individual. Now it's a headache and it's very complex trying to figure out how each one of your team members and colleagues wants to be treated, but it's worth the investment, right? So I learned the hard way, so I love fitness and adventures and all those things. A lot of my colleagues didn't give a damn about it, right? So I had to be bothered about what they wanted. What they wanted was probably work-life balance and family time, and probably, they were foodies as well, right? So that's something you need to keep in mind all the time. Develop your network. I was always pretty good at networking, right? It goes back to point number 4, people skills. You need to be curious about people. So people ask me, how do I network? It's like asking, how do you socialize? I mean, you do have friends, right? How did you build your friends network? So you find people with similar interests, similar hobbies, similar values, maybe. You connect with them. You develop the relationship. Then they connect to other people and then it grows, right? That's the way it works. And then, of course, it's very rewarding as well, because like they say, your network is your net worth, right? Don't just jump for a job for money, brand, or title. It's very common back in the Indian subcontinent, right? We always go for, okay, 10, 15%, 20% raise, good brand, title, a mix of this, right? And that's fine, because a lot of the time, it's a rewarding career, you learn a lot. But what happens if you don't learn a lot? What happens if it's a dead end? What happens, if it's a toxic work environment, right? What happens if it's not the career that you really want or that you're even good at, right? But you just jump because, it's a great big 4 firm and the brand sounds fancy and the title sounds better than what you had earlier. I was talking to a lot of, I always keep touch with my former CFA students, right? A lot of them CFA charter holders. And somebody's talking to me about, I took a 10% drop from my previous job. I'm trying to make it up by moving to another job. And I said, that's not the way you look at careers, right? Jumping for money, at least not to me, right? That doesn't work out in the long term. Something that always worked for me, again, all these things, what I have seen, what worked for me, right? Something that always worked very well for me is going above and beyond at work and standing out. So in almost every job I can remember, right? I always did something more than what the job description said, in terms of meeting other people from other departments, preparing research reports, doing more analysis than required, adding value, telling management or something that they didn't know, which is important, right? Like back in Nakhil, the big property company, I used to give regular, like once a month warnings on cash flows, and this is how long we have cash for, and it's because of this reason, this is the gap here, which they didn't know before, right? That actually helped in going back to the project and maybe redesigning it, which they never thought of before. I could go on and on, give you many examples like that. Life is not fair. Career is not always fair, right? You may not get promoted all the time, or get the raise that you want, or get the job that you want, or it's not going to work out all the time. And you got to face that and be ready with that, right? Somebody who's got connections, somebody who looks better, somebody who talks better, somebody who's whatever, not based on merit may get it. That's the way the world works. This is not the world of your home or the school or college where everything is black and white and all the rules are very clear. The real world works in a different way. I think a lot of us, because of our sheltered life, we are used to black and white. The real world operates in much more shades of gray. So I think that's something that I found out the hard way, right? When I started my career as well. And probably the most important point is know yourself. I think if you ask me what is the most important point, including education, career, I think it's about knowing. I think a lot of us know about the outside world, right? People, places, topics, books, cars, phones, but you'll be surprised how many people don't know about themselves. When I say know yourself, I mean, do you know your values? Most people don't. What do you mean by values? These are things that are non-negotiable, which you will not give up. These are things that will drive your selection of your career, job, spouse, location, lifestyle, everything. Now, for example, my values, which I found the last 4 or 5 years, by the way, it's not that I know, it came to me when I was younger, although I wished I had done it younger. My values are authenticity, freedom, wellness, impact, and fun, right? This is very important for me. No negotiation there, right? So what are your values? I mean, there are some tools that I could share, and I've shared on LinkedIn before that you can use, that can give some reports and you can think about those things, right? So what are your values? Because your values drive your behaviors. The way you behave at work, at home is all based on your values. Your values came from upbringing, whatever, all childhood, all those things, right? But you got to know that. And that will help you. So I find that if you know yourself, a lot of decisions in life, whether it's career or personal decisions, are much easier. Because you then know that, this will work for me, this will not work for me. This job looks good, but is rubbish. This job doesn't look that good, but actually that's what I want, right? So that is, I think, what's been the best discovery from my side over the last many years, right? And I think that's pretty much it from my side. This picture, by the way, was taken in January 2013. I was at the top of Mount Kenya in Kenya, about 5,000 meters above sea level. Quite hard to hold that post, as you can imagine, in the thin air, but somehow I managed to click a picture. On the right side, you see my website, therealfinancementor.com. Lots of podcasts. As I told you, I have a podcast channel with a new episode every month. The latest was with the interview with Mr. Paul Smith, the former president and CEO of CFA Institute. Quite a long and very interesting interview. You can reach out to me on Binod Shankar at .shankar@gmail.com. I am very active on LinkedIn. However, you can't connect with me on LinkedIn because I have a limit, 30,000 and above. You can't connect with me, but you can follow me. So please don't send me invites. I just can't accept it, although I would love to. But please follow me on LinkedIn. And I think that's about it for now. Any questions? Feel free to ask.
I would encourage all the audiences to please put your questions in the chat box. You can come on the video and ask questions directly from Binod.
Yeah, don't be shy, guys. There's a chance, to ask questions. There's no dumb question. Don't switch off your camera and phone and just keep quiet and say, I wish I'd asked him this question, but now it's too late. Don't go there. Feel free to ask your question, right?
Hi, Binod. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Who is speaking?
I'm Harsha.
Hi, Harsha.
Yes. Thank you for sharing your story, firstly. It's really inspiring. And thank you, Rajni, for conducting this session. While I agree with most of the tips that you shared on education, I'm interested in understanding if, in your experience with recruiters, do they share the same perspective as you do? And to what extent would they agree or disagree with the points that you shared with respect to qualifications, badges, degrees, all of those things?
Yeah, hi Harsha. So that depends a lot on the recruiter, right? And the company who is hiring. Very difficult for me to say that, right? Sitting over here. But I have noticed, of course, these are broad statements I'm making, right, Harsha? That recruiters are very much more interested in skills, because let me put it this way, right? Qualifications are givens. Like they say, table stakes, what they call table stakes, right? If you want to play the game, you should have something to start to play the game. So your CA, your CFA are taken as minimums anyway. Everyone has them, right? A lot of chartered accountants and a lot of CFA charter holders out there. So the question is, how do you stand out? And when I have interviewed hundreds of candidates and I've taught many, and when I talk to employers, HR managers, they say the problem is, candidates don't stand out. They are so boring. They are boring. So what are you? Oh, my name is XYZ. I'm a CA. I'm a CFA. Yeah. What beyond that? Don't you have a personality? No. Surely you must be doing something, right? Stamp collection. You follow cricket. Maybe do you code something? So what managers say, recruiters say, what? Candidates are so easily forgettable. They meet maybe dozens of candidates in a month and they easily forget them because no one stands out. Everyone says the same thing. So, and I've talked to people in India, I've talked to recruiters here, and we talk about senior recruiters, right? With big banks, asset managers. People don't know how to communicate, number one. They don't know how to send CVs and perform in interviews. But even when they come to interview, they don't know what to say, right? They're very shy, right? And especially, if you're asked something about, tell me about yourself, right? Classic question, right? Tell me about yourself in the interview. What do they say? They say, well, I did my BCom, did my CA, passed my first attempt, and I worked in XYZ company, and you are more than your CV, So that's why I stress on have extracurricular activities as well. And that really impresses people like, wow, and I'm not saying that, surfing the net and Bollywood movie watching are not extracurricular activities, right? I mean, stuff like hiking or I'm not saying climb Mount Everest, right? Hiking, whatever, advanced camping, whatever, or you write articles, you have a blog, wow, interesting. Or you invest in stock markets, very interesting. No, why not? So that's what I feel recruiters are increasingly frustrated with candidates, because they want to see someone who they would love to work with, who can add value, who can really tell them why they should hire them. That's not happening. I don't know whether that answers your question, Harsha, but this is a roundabout way of explaining it.
Yeah, in fact, I would echo with Binod on one point which we highlighted in the session, that of all this skill, communication stands at the number one. I completely concur with it. You have suppose two candidates, one is communicative and one is not. Your obvious choice becomes the person who's communicating well. So that's good. So what is true in UAE is true in India also. I can completely vouch for it. Yeah.
Any questions, Harsha, on that? Or?
Could go on and on. I guess a few other people have also raised their hands.
Yeah, Gaurav, you have a question?
Yeah, hi Binod.
Hi.
Yeah, so in one of your education, I think you spoke about how CA offers a lot of options. I'm currently an MBA graduate and CFA level 2 candidate. Right. And so, yeah, it just got me wondering what additional value would the CFA bring at this point? Like I do notice a lot of job openings do mention that CA is a minimum requirement for most jobs, and I find myself lacking for that. So I want to ask you if CA would be useful for me at this point, and in what ways?
Rajni, you want to give it a shot and I can pitch in.
Yeah, so see, it's not about probably I would like to put it slightly differently. The way Binod highlights it as a chartered accountancy, probably you wanted to try to highlight his background towards it. Now, there are certain job profiles wherein MBA is given preference. There are certain job profiles wherein a CA is given preference. So depending upon, what are the options available with you and the kind of, time, etc. you want to invest in, maybe you can take your call based on that. Because CFA any which way you're doing, right? If I heard correctly, yeah.
So Gaurav, you're doing your CFA level 2 and you have an MBA is what you're saying, right?
Yes, that's right. I have my CFA level 2 exam in November.
Right. So here's a quick word of advice for you, right? The whole idea is to impress recruiters, right? That's the whole idea. Okay, let's get cut to the chase. That's it, right? If you want to impress recruiters, then do something which other people rarely do, which is go and research some companies, prepare a research report with a financial model, and send it to the recruiter. Okay. Forget CA, vagera, all those things, right? People don't see what do they want? They want to see skills. They want to know whether Gaurav can hit the ground running the job. Agreed?
Yeah.
So acquire some skills. Show them that you have the skills, right? Whether through CA or CFA, of course, CFA level 2 will help, but do that. Go and research a company in India, write a 2-3 page report, have a simple Excel model, attach it, send it to some major recruiters and see what happens. Right?
Yeah. Sure, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
That has actually worked for quite a few people, but actually very few people do it. So that's why.
Yeah, I've been doing this financial modeling course as well. So, but it's been on the back with the CFA prep. So I'll get around to that. And
yeah. So we go back to the whole idea of standing out, right, Gaurav, and skills. People, CFA level 2, there are thousands of people writing level 2. MBAs, there are hundreds of thousands of people with MBA. Question is, how do you stand out? Right? So impress the heck out of the recruiter by showing something, and then trust me, it's more likely you'll get a call for the interview. Yeah. Let me know what that happens.
Sure, I will. Thank you.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Mr. Binod. It's Anusha here.
Hi, Anusha. Tell me.
Thank you for sharing your story. I've been following your podcast and your LinkedIn posts for about a year now. And one of the podcasts helped me start my CFA journey. I'm a candidate level 2 right now, writing my exam in this November. My question is, I keep coming back to this question throughout my journey, is that it's very hard to answer what path I will take when I'm at the beginning of it. Suppose, for example, I'm in 10th grade and choosing between science, humanities, and commerce. It's very hard to answer what my interests lie at that point. Similarly, when I'm at this junction and currently enjoying the CFA subjects, it's very hard for me to choose which stream should I go towards. Should I look for jobs in economics industry, or should I go for IB, or if I should go for, it's like a huge lot of paths in front of me. And right now I'm very confused as to where to start in terms of looking for a correct job.
So quick question. Which subject do you like the most in CFA? Have you liked the most so far?
Economics.
And then?
I would say equity.
And then?
I would say that my interest, what I've identified more in a very solid way, is that I like theory more than quants or numericals. I feel like I started reading a lot of strategy books and started liking subjects on a macro level rather than a very detailed way.
So here's the thing, right? So maybe you should work on the research side. So it seems, again, I don't know you that well. I'm making very broad, shallow statements here, okay?
Okay.
So you have to excuse my ignorance to start with. Normally I have meaningful discussion, then only I give my, but if you're interested in theory, then a job as an economist, as a researcher, as a consultant probably suits your aptitude, right?
Okay.
Your aptitude, right? So you can look at that. And maybe not so much client-facing sales, sell-side, investment banking.
Okay.
Which is very much meetings and handshakes and late night parties and stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Which I'm simplifying things a lot, obviously.
Right.
Right. So that's on the aptitude side, right? Now, the tricky thing is to find out what your attitude is towards. So for example, I'll give you a very good example. If you're the sensitive neurotic type, and I'm not saying you are, if you are the sensitive neurotic type, don't even go anywhere near investment banking.
Okay. I have read that on your post.
Okay, right.
Yes.
And I mean it in a very friendly warning, right? Don't go there.
Okay.
If you're the analytical, long-term person who likes to write things structured, equity research, bond research, yes.
Okay.
Think of those lines. So you got to think carefully about what are the skills, what is the aptitude and attitude I have, what kind of areas, right? So you might be very good in certain things, but you don't have the attitude for it, right? So you might be great in financial modeling and valuation, which is required in investment banking, but you don't have the temperament for that.
Right.
Got it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So by looking at the mix of both, then you can sort of figure out broadly what you want to do.
Before I tap into it.
Sorry?
Before I tap into it.
Before you go, you invest more time and energy into a particular area, right?
Right.
The other way is trying out internships in various places, small companies, and saying, okay, I like this. It seems to be the kind of work I like, you know.
I did do an internship, which helped me decide that I did not like accounting or auditing for as a career. But the problem I faced was most seniors in the audit industry told me that you cannot really tell that you're not into that industry by just 2 months of experience.
Right.
And that is where I dropped the whole idea of going for internships.
Right. So maybe you think accounting audit is not for you, but maybe economics or something in those lines is probably something that you want. To be honest, I'll be completely honest with you, right? If you want to get into equity valuation or valuation, you better be good in accounting. I'm being brutally honest.
Right. Yes.
Right? You need to be able to tear apart financials, right, Rajni?
Yes, yes. That's a baseline.
That's the baseline. Exactly. That's the baseline. You got to eat, sleep, and drink financial statements. So for example, personally, I love financial statements, right? You give me an annual report, I could go to sleep with it. And spend the whole night going through it.
Right.
Including the most boring part, which is accounting policies. Right? I love it.
Okay.
And I love tearing it apart and painting the picture. So an article of mine is coming out in about a week's time in the CFA Institute journal on analysis I did. I love that. Now, if you don't like that, then seriously rethink your ambition in equity research or bond research or valuation.
What I meant by accounting was just not looking at financial statements, but the whole package that comes with a career in accounting, doing the entries and the monotonous.
Okay, right. Yeah.
That's
okay, got it. Okay.
But thank you for input.
Sure. Somebody else, I think a lot of questions people asking.
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody is gonna use this time with you.
Absolutely.
Right. So Binod, this is Joe here.
Hi, Joe.
And thanks a lot for taking the time out of your busy schedule for this session. It is really helpful, insightful, and I could relate to you rather in many levels, because I'm a Mallu. Otherwise, again, as you said, lack of aptitude in your life. That is something that I have been struggling since childhood days, but now I'm trying to solve it. And I have signed up for CFA, and I'm gonna go for level 1 in May 2022. Right. So my background, and it's going to be a little longer question, if you can bear with me. I'll try to concise it as much as possible. So my background is I'm an engineer, and I have been working with B2B SaaS businesses as a sales manager for last 8 years. Right. But now I started investing money in my own, portfolio, making my own portfolio, looking for companies to invest. And that's how I got into this investment mentality. And I want to get into that side of it. Now, by investment, I do not mean equity. Preferably, I would want to get into VC. And I think you are one of the best people to tell me if I can get into a VC firm or a private equity firm with my background, with let's say CFA level 2 certification. What do you think about that?
Right. Rajni, feel free to chip in. I just have a few comments to make here. So India, of course, startup scene is exploding, as you all know. A lot of VCs, a lot of private equity firms, a lot of incubators, accelerators. So India is a perfect place to look at a career in PE or VC, absolutely. However, having said that, the top firms in VC and PE all prefer to hire from the top B schools.
Right.
Okay. We're talking about the IIMs and those things, right? So then you need to look at the lower rungs, the smaller firms, right? And there, at least level 2 pass would be required, right? But very importantly, in PE and VC, right, you're not really applying your technical skills that much, because there's not much to value. You don't have much of a track record, right? These are startups with no cash flows, no profits, nothing. So, right. So it becomes a bit like, a lot of judgment required there. Right? Judgment calls. You need to be very street smart. You need to be good in market knowledge. You need to be able to talk to the promoters and figure out, okay, is this guy, what does he know? Is he going to make it or not?
That's something that I think I might be good at, because I have been in sales and I have been doing really well there. So more than CFA and my financial analytics thing, the sales thing, that's what I want to apply when I get into a VC and private equity firm.
Yeah. So sales is good. The other advantage you have, Joe, is that you're an engineer, right?
Yep.
I have a lot of respect for engineers because they come with their analytical, logical mindset.
Yes.
The ability to skip the bullshit and get to the core.
Yeah.
I hope you're like that. I don't know.
Yes. At least I like to think so.
You like to think so. That is a big advantage because engineering teaches you a lot of things, right? Most of which you don't apply in real life, of course, but like most degrees, but it does teach you to a lot of pressure, time pressure, a lot of intense projects you have. And that has helped. So I think analytical skills, reasoning, asking why, right? And not afraid to question the assumptions. Yeah, asking the right questions. You probably have that knack.
Yes.
You probably do, right? You seem to speak well. So I think communication should not be a problem. You have sales experience. So presenting and selling yourself may not be a problem, which is another plus, right? So get the CFA under your belt. and try and get into a PE or VC firm, right?
Yep.
And maybe once you get into the lower ones, then you can get to the bigger ones, right?
Exactly.
Once you have experience, right?
Yep. So
Makes
that's
sense?
something that it definitely does. So that's my strategy gonna be, because Sequoias of the world may not hire me right now.
Yeah, correct.
But once I show them the track record that with this smaller VC firm, if I can do this, then maybe with you people, I'll be able to do better.
And go and attend pitch meetings, go and attend startup meetings, even now, starting now.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay? Virtually or otherwise, a lot of things happening, even in Kerala, right?
Exactly.
Are you in Kerala now?
No. So I was never in Kerala. I was born and brought up in North India, but my parents are from Kerala.
So anyway, anywhere in India, you have incubators, you have accelerators.
Yes. So I invest in startups too right now as angel. From my savings, little bit here and there. So yeah, I do attend those pitch meetings.
So what you should do is attend pitch meetings and listen very carefully to what angel investors are asking.
Right.
The questions they ask. That's a huge learning experience. So I'm an angel investor myself. I've attended many angel investor meetings in India, especially in Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi. And I found that some senior angel investors are brilliant. They know exactly what to ask.
Oh yeah, they do.
So go there, listen carefully, take notes, meet with these angel investors, try to get them as your mentors if possible.
Right.
And that's how it works. And then they might introduce you to VC firms, right?
Yep.
That's how it works.
Yep, I understand.
Get the connections there.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thank
nice
you.
Talking
Thanks
to you,
a lot.
John.
The answer.
But
it
one
really
point,
boosted my Please go ahead.
So one point I would want to mention over and above what Binod mentioned is that especially VC industry, they don't hire through any recruitment site, etc. For that, you need to go through the networking base. So you'll have to,
right.
Earlier you start, better it is.
Correct.
That's where I would want to conclude. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you, both of you. Really boosted my confidence.
Hey there, Binod.
Yeah. Hi, Pradesh, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Actually, it's been a journey. How are you doing?
Man, by the way, Pratish used to be my CFA student once upon a time, and he's passed level 3. And I see that you're an entrepreneur on LinkedIn. So I've been following you as well. So shoot.
Oh, wow. Okay. So my questions were essentially, again, like reflecting what Anusha was saying. Your posts are actually very helpful.
Thank you.
I do save snippets of it like from time to time, and I just think about it. All right, makes sense. And so my questions are not going to be finance related. Is that going to be fine?
Shoot.
Perfect. So essentially, so when you were going through your career, which I didn't know the earlier part.
Now you do.
Or maybe actually no. I didn't know that you did go to Oman after like 2008. That bit. Yeah, and also that. Yeah. So my thing was, so you went along like managing bigger and bigger teams as then you got to Nikhil. So I just wanted to understand, I know you as a person, but I don't know you as your management style. How did you manage all those people? How do you keep them motivated? What was your philosophy behind that?
Wow, that's another session.
Yeah, I was scared that I wouldn't want to ask if it is.
No. It's a big, so briefly, and we can have another discussion offline, right?
Yeah.
As with most people who are first-time managers, my initial style was, listen, I've hired you, right? I'm paying you a salary. This is your job description. You better do it. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't care about your problems, your issues, your challenges, your constraints, your gaps, whatever. That was my style, right? And we're talking about early 30s, maybe even up to mid 30s, right? It changed when I set up my own company, because when you set up your own company, the buck stops with you. And then you start learning that you're not God's gift to management. And you learn there are so many gaps in your emotional intelligence and your style. So I think my biggest learning was in Genesis. And it was a huge learning because you had to manage sales staff, operations staff, accounting staff, highly qualified CFA charter holder trainers, right?
You had a wide variety of personalities, right?
Yes.
Within there. Yeah.
Yes. All competent, but that was what you saw, but it took a long time to get there. It was a lot of hit and miss.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the career tips I mentioned, Pratish, was from that learning, right? Like treat people like they want to be treated. Soft skills are very important. You got to keep working at it. Take feedback, even if it comes from your juniors, although it can be humiliating because you find out that you're not so good at management after all. So I think those things helped me. I think most of us have never learned management formally or leadership formally, right? Nowhere, right? No one has taught us.
A book or anything?
There are a lot of books. I've posted on LinkedIn quite a few books that. But the best thing, books are fine, podcasts are fine. But the best thing, Pradesh, is introspection, right? And ask people, right? Actually, go out and ask your partner, your business partner, your team members, your juniors especially, and tell them to be honest. Because one thing I did that I was very good at, right? I mean, I was not great at other things, to be honest. But one thing was I allowed my juniors to criticize me.
Yeah.
And that was the best thing I did, because juniors came up to me and said, Binod, this doesn't work. This is not what you can say in meetings. This is not what we expect from you. This is what you should do differently. And I heard that from different people. And I said, okay, you know what? I had to change, because I had two options. I could remain a manager, or what do you call it, team leader, right? Or I could become a leader. And the key change that happened to me was in a meeting, when a senior person in the company in the room told me to my face that, Binod, you're not a leader. And that was initially a slap in the face, but that affected me for weeks, right? As you can imagine. But that completely changed my thinking. Right. And that was what triggered my transformation from being, look, I was always very good in class with you guys,
Exactly.
Students loved my classes and everything.
It was more personable as like when you were in classes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
With employees, not so much. So that is what triggered the thinking. So I think you need someone to tell you to your face that, you are ... And that someone has to be bold enough and has to care about you and smart enough. And that could be your colleagues, your business partner, whatever, your suppliers, clients, whatever. So I think go out and solicit feedback. In companies, they have 360-degree feedbacks, which is, I find, sometimes quite useful. And you'll be surprised at what people tell you.
Could you repeat that?
It's called 360-degree feedback. Basically, you get feedback from your bosses, your peers, and your juniors.
Okay.
Everyone tells you how terrible you are or how good you are, whatever, right? Depends.
Because that was what I was thinking about, like your idea into introspection was, my idea behind that was, rather than just working with anyone, you have to be more like, you have to be, first of all, know who you are. And number two, work with the kind of people that you actually can get along with. Yeah. Was that a part of your decision-making when it came to hiring?
When it came to hiring, you asked. When it came to hiring, look, I was not great at hiring. I was not good at hiring.
What was that all?
Yeah, well, I used to hire people like myself, right?
Yeah.
This happens to all of us, right? We go and hire Pratish clones or Rajni clones or Binod clones because we like to work with people like ourselves. That is human psychology. And eventually the company got so big that I said, you know what, unless the senior hire, I don't want to see them. HR managers and line managers take care of the hiring. Done. No.
But do you pass on the philosophy to them, or is it up to them?
The philosophy was very clear. The Genesis had a way of working, and you remember, right?
Yeah.
It had a way of working. Fast, agile, very responsive to clients, and just get the work done, right? I had open door policy, no bureaucracy, no hierarchy, right? It was quite open that way, but absolutely performance oriented. You couldn't hide behind somebody. You'd be exposed very quickly, very quickly. So, and many people couldn't stand that culture. So few people left. That's fine, right? Okay. It was a very friendly culture. We had outings and team meetings and Thursday afternoon games and birthday parties and stuff. It was not like
the culture of responsibility.
I was not an Elon Musk or Steve Jobs kind of jerk.
Right.
Okay. We cared about people. We actually groomed them. We promoted them. We paid them well. We allowed them to work from home way before COVID.
Wow.
Way before COVID. Yeah. My corporate sales manager came to work once a week for meeting. That's it. I told her, don't come to office. You be with clients, because she had to commute right from Sharjah, and Sharjah is far from Dubai. Right? Why do you do that? Why? Yeah. So personally, I never cared about 9 to 5 or punching the time clock. I just say, no, just get the work done. So whether it is your Vishal or Yasser, just trainers work from home, come to class when you have to teach a class. When there's a meeting, come to the office.
True. Yes, they were actually working from home, like from 2015.
You remember, right?
They were just Right.
So that was it. So yeah, but that was not me initially. That's what I ended up towards the end, right? But that was a long, painful journey before I got there. So I don't want you to think that, I was like the born iconic leader.
Everyone has to learn, but I'm just trying to get ahead of the curve by like talking to people like you so that I'm also aware.
The other way of doing it, which I do sometimes, is get a coach or a mentor. And a coach or a mentor can, if he knows you well, a good coach or a mentor can quickly identify your weaknesses and work on those with you. So I do selective executive coaching these days with senior to middle level managers in Dubai. And that is that is not it takes time, it takes months, and it's a structured process. So that's why I took the qualification in coaching about 3 years ago, because I wanted to understand the psychology of coaching and mentoring and what makes people change and what are the hurdles and things like that.
Oh, and congratulations on becoming a certified coach also. I didn't know about that.
That happened 3 years ago, but thanks anyway.
Yeah, I've been out of loop, for a while.
Yeah, so, I don't highlight that enough on LinkedIn. Maybe I should talk about it more.
Yeah, you should actually put it up, actually.
I probably should.
Yeah.
Good idea. I probably should. Well, nice talking to you, Pratish.
Awesome. I've got more questions, but I would like to give it to everyone.
Sorry. I mean, are there any other people asking questions? Or?
Oh, no, there are quite a few.
There are two, three people are there in the queue.
Sure.
Right.
Please go on.
Binod, till next time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Brilliant talking to you. Yeah.
Let's try to catch up sometime if time allows for you. Yeah. Cheers.
Will do. Cheers. Yes. Who's next?
Hello, Binod, sir.
Hi.
Hi, sir. How are you?
You can skip the sir bit. Just call me Binod, man.
Okay. Hi, Binod. How are you?
Hi. Good.
I'm so excited and lucky to get a chance to speak to you. I have two bothering questions. One is related to the current generation problem, the overloaded information. How to retain the information which we consume on a day-to-day basis, reading, watching videos. So what is the strategy we could follow? Because I feel I'm consuming more, but I don't feel I'm retaining. So can you give your view?
Okay, a very good question, because you're right. I mean, everywhere you look, you have information, right? You have CNBC, Yahoo, Bloomberg, Financial Times, Economic Times, CFA Institute, whatever, right? So what I do, Subramaniam, is I have certain topics that I'm interested in. And I don't look outside that, right? So I'm interested in US stock markets, health and fitness, of course, adventure, extreme adventure, especially climbing and cycling, psychology, especially management psychology, or what you call occupational psychology, and history and economics. So I don't care about politics too much. I have no interest in sports. I don't follow cricket at all. I don't care who wins IPL or whatever. I have no interest, zero. I flick past those items completely, right? So sports, politics, culture, arts, no interest whatsoever. Okay, you can call me uncultured, but that's my way of looking at it, right? So that saves me a lot of time. That means I don't get stuck in an article. I see it. So I have an app called Flipboard on my phone. You probably heard about it, Flipboard. It gives you articles. So maybe you can download that. It's called Flipboard. You get on Android and Apple. It gives you articles that fits in with your topics at regular intervals. You select the topics, it gives you articles. That's it. So I don't go outside Flipboard. I don't read newspapers. I have a few blogs or podcasts that I listen to, but all related to finance or markets, things like that. So I follow Barron's. I follow Seeking Alpha, which is a good website for stock markets and analyst reports, and a couple of others. That's it. So I'm quite selective in the information I consume, right? I don't go to the popular newspapers, online or offline. I don't, because my interest is quite niche. So I suggest you look at what you are really interested in. Maybe link to your career, maybe link to your passions. And that will enable you to narrow down your topics, right? Do that. And forget everything else. Because we only got 24 hours in a day. And I keep telling people, time is your most valuable, most precious resource. You can't afford to squander that on irrelevant stuff. Right?
Okay.
So does that help you?
Yeah, definitely. Now I feel I can narrow down my interest and make it selective and look only on that, because I feel that fear of missing out. People are talking about other topics. Should I focus on that, or should I focus on my topics? It's kind of confused. Now I feel motivated and clarity. And one more question, sir, about this values and personality. You have mentioned it will define our career, and in terms of personal life, how to find out values and personality, and how to improvise on that.
There's a very good site. Thanks for asking that. There's a very good test, online free test. It's called Find My Why. Let me see if I can. So it's called Find My Why, and it's free. Okay, and it's half an hour online test. It'll give you a lot of reports. Go through each report in detail. It will tell you a lot about yourself. What are your values? What work environments you like? What you don't like? And it will actually evaluate a personality based on 5 criteria, which is a very popular criteria called the Big 5 test. It's a popular psychometric test. Those are essential, and I wish more people would do it. It's called Find My Why.
Okay, sir.
Find My Why. WHY.
Okay, sir. I will take the test, and I will.
Most people who I send the link to don't do it. Okay, they promise to do it. They swear they will do it, but they don't do it. Right? So
I will share my result with you on LinkedIn.
No, you don't need to share it.
It's like I have that bothering in my mind. What are values, first of all? And you have given the examples. What are values? That authenticity, and how you approach things.
Yes.
Your priorities. And this is like bothering my mind for few days, few weeks. And you are the answer for that. Now I got a clarity on how to take forward.
Values will make your life much more simpler, Subramaniam.
Okay.
It will make your decisions much easier. You know what you won't do. You know what you will do. Simple, right?
Unbelievable, sir.
I wish you success.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right.
Sir.
Anytime. Nice meeting you. Anyone else wants to ask a question?
Hi, Binod. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having this very interactive session, and I think many interesting questions were put forth as well. So a little bit background about myself. I just graduated with a majoring in accounting and finance from Dubai Heriot Watt.
Right.
And I'm also a CFA level 2 candidate.
Okay.
So since being a graduate, I did like, okay, now what next? Like which path to choose from here? And the 2 most popular ones, which is IB and wealth management, came to my mind. So I think I'm more, I have an edge for asset wealth management and equity research more than IB. And I even read one of your recommendations, Monkey Business. And after that, I was like,
yeah, if you read Monkey Business, you would never go into IB ever.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Faraz. Yeah, so that was eye-opening as well. And based on my personality and what my strengths and weaknesses, I think asset management might be more suitable. But then I noticed that in Dubai, I don't see much opportunities for asset management and equity. This is my interest. So, and many of my family and friends say that why don't you do an MBA, and from there you can MBA from top reputed Ivy colleges or something like that.
So what was your question specifically?
Yeah, so like, is it necessary to do an MBA to enter this field? Because I think CFA, I am interested in CFA, and I think by the end of this journey, I might get exhausted and I might not be ready for an MBA as such. So I don't know, like, is it necessary to...
Which field? Valuation, equity research?
Yes, valuation and asset
So here's my tip for you, right?
Yeah.
Asset management is a tiny sector in GCC, as you know. Okay. The stock markets are small and illiquid, unlike India or US.
Yes.
But people do hire. And the companies that do hire in Dubai and Abu Dhabi are fintechs, which is picking up speed, are boutique financial advisory firms, okay, smaller ones, okay, because they are willing to risk hiring inexperienced candidates. The big 4 EY, PwCs, the big consulting firms, the big investment banking firms may not hire you, but the smaller firms will hire you. You just need to go out and Google for them, reach out through LinkedIn, talk to people, send out your CV. There's no other way.
Okay.
No one's going to come to you and say, Jai Shri Jairam, here's a job.
Yeah.
Ain't happening.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to go out there,
yeah.
you will reach out 100 people, 90 people will reject you and not even reply to your messages. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Don't get disheartened. This is part of the job search process. Do not get disheartened.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody will respond to you and say, let's have a chat. Let's have a Zoom call. Show them what you have done. So I suggest, like I told earlier to somebody else, right? I think Gaurav, do some research of companies, do some financial modeling.
Yeah.
People don't have time these days to groom youngsters, fresh graduates.
Yeah.
They don't have time. They want someone who knows some basics, right? So do that so that you have some skills. And yeah, so and reach out to recruiters as well. There are quite a few local recruitment companies in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah.
So basically, it means going out there and talking to people, however uncomfortable or strange or new it may be to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are jobs out there. And post-COVID, hiring has picked up in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Okay. And there are jobs, but you just need to look hard enough and be persistent.
Yeah, very hard enough, because I don't see much. I think I don't.
You don't see much, Jayashree, because you haven't looked hard enough. That's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the answer. So you need to look hard enough, and
yes.
It will take time.
Yeah.
And that while you're looking for a job, try and build some skills side by side, parallel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like report writing, like valuation, like financial modeling. Right?
Yes.
Because you're studying for level 2 now, so you know some concepts of valuation, right? So try and apply those. Like I said, knowledge is different from skills, right?
Yeah.
Recruiters and companies appreciate knowledge, but they want to see skills. What can you do at work today? What can you apply at work? I don't care whether you pass level 2 on level 2 or level 3. That's fine. But how can you help me in achieving this objective? How can you help the client?
Yeah.
Understood?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take 2 more questions from Syed and Anna. Syed, you can go now.
Hi, Syed. Hello.
Syed, can you hear us?
Syed, you there?
Yes.
Syed, we can't hear you. Your voice is broken. We can't hear you. You're not audible. You're not audible, Syed.
Yeah, maybe Anna, you can ask your question.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Syed, you can fix your connection.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Binod. I've actually passed my 3rd level of CFA. And I actually have a very specific financial question to ask. That time.
Okay, let's see whether I can answer your specific question.
No, because originally I was going to ask, what point do you realize when to cut your losses? Because, professionally and in my own investments, that's when I tend to stagger. Loss aversion.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, but when I was hearing from everyone else, I also realized, at what point do you decide to cut your losses in, say, a career, or at, in particular, even in like management styles in, say, projects? I know it's a very, very large and broad topic to talk about, but.
So let me start. Okay, actually, it's interesting. Let me start by telling you what I did to cut my losses in my career. And maybe then we can talk about investments after that.
Yeah.
So on 2 occasions, I cut my losses. One, when I realized that getting to become a partner in a Big 4 firm is a huge undertaking. And I said, no way I'm doing that. Okay. So I quit Big 4 in 2003. Because it wasn't exciting enough. Or I'd spend another 15, 20 years. And even then it does not show that I would get to the top. Second time when I cut my losses was in corporate life in 2009, when I was already CFO, executive director, and then I could have become group CFO and then CEO and group CEO and blah, 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 right? I said, it's not exciting enough for me. Again, it'd just be more politics and more stress. And that's not how I wanted to spend the best years of my life. No way. So at 40, I said, no, screw this. I'm going to start my own company. And I was good in teaching anyway. And I knew I could live by teaching.
Yeah.
That was clear in my mind. And I live a very Spartan lifestyle anyway. So it's not like, so that was it. That was on the career side, right? So I cut my losses twice, right? And I moved out. I didn't think too much about sunk cost, right? So sunk cost does not feature much in my life. Let me put it this way, right? So I'll give you an example. I spent about 8 years writing a book, okay? And last week I decided not to publish it. And people will go, are you crazy? I said, no, it doesn't make any sense to publish it anymore. Okay? I spent 8 years and probably about, I don't know how many hours. So I think don't go with the sunk cost concept in either investing or career or life. Because a lot of us, because we spend so much time and effort on something, say, you know what, we have to finish it, So we ordered this big chicken biryani, and we can't eat the full chicken biryani, but we have to finish it because we ordered it.
Yeah.
Don't do it halfway through, just throw it away and move on in life, right? So in investing, I'm not that good. So I suffer from loss aversion bias. I have to be very honest with you. And I'm still sitting on at least 2 investments, which are more than 50% of their cost and probably will never recover it. But psychologically, it's very painful for me. Although I have taught behavioral finance in level 3 and I talk about it a lot, but in practice, it's difficult. So I need to do it. But yeah, I think it's difficult to admit that you have made losses.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very difficult.
In behavioral finance. That's when I realized I have all of these, and it's very difficult to actually put into practice what you learn.
Yeah, that's a classic example of theory versus practice, right? So, but I think at one point you had to decide that, you know what, enough is enough. This company will never come back up again, right? So take that money out and put it somewhere else. Maybe it makes more sense if you've identified another opportunity and then you exit.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, Binod, actually Sayed is not.
Oh, hi, Sayed.
So he's posted his question on the chat box. I'll read out for him.
Yeah, please.
So actually, he has mentioned that unfortunately he failed level 2 recently. Minimum passing score is going higher. And investment right now he's working as an accountant, hence is not in the investment related field. And he is also doing a course called as CFI. So if you can help him out to chart his path a bit.
Right. I don't know his background, his skills. Difficult to say, Rajani, in terms of charting out path for what exactly. So if you're in accounting, it becomes very difficult to switch from accounting, right, to valuation or equity research. Because you have people who are probably younger than you have passed and, all those kind of things. So it's quite tough. What I would suggest is focus on the CFA qualification itself, right? Finish level 2, level 3. And then at least you can go to people and say, you know what, I don't have experience in valuation or analysis, but at least I have passed all 3 levels. So I know the body of knowledge, right? And then you can work in small firms or boutique firms, right? And then maybe work your way up. So I think the fact that you've worked hard, and of course, I think CFI is what he's referring to is the Corporate Finance Institute, which runs some good high quality online financial modeling courses. I would recommend that along with some other providers, CFI. So do that, get some financial modeling skills under your belt, pass all 3 levels, and then some employer might look at you more seriously, right? As to why you failed level 2, look into it more deeply. Maybe the materials you used or the study or the revision strategy that you followed might be faulty. But I don't know enough. Your post hasn't told me enough about you, so it's all I can say for now. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, one last question is there in the chat box. Maybe you want to ask
sure.
Yeah. Question is from Nitya. He's asking your take on doing CPA and CFA simultaneously. What kind of profile will I land if I do them?
Yeah, so CPA and CFA simultaneously, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be tough, right? I don't know whether you're working or not, or how busy you are, how much time you have. But assuming that you can do both simultaneously, it's good because CPA is accounting and auditing and tax, and CFA is valuation. So like I said earlier to I think, who was it? Anusha, I think it's, and Rajni agree with me, right? If you are going to equity research or valuation, then accounting knowledge is baseline stuff. You must have accounting knowledge. So
right.
yeah, absolutely. CPA hopefully should give you that accounting knowledge, which means that, you know, a career in equity research looks more promising if you like financial statements, assuming if you're good at analyzing them. At least it gives you the right tools, right? CPA, the formula, the ratios and techniques, and the analytical strategy. So yes, it is definitely a good complement, CPA and CFA, like CA and CFA, or, you know, or whatever, ACA and CFA. It does help you a lot if you're going down the route of equity valuation, equity research, financial analysis. Yeah.
Sure. Vinny, do we have any more participants asking questions?
Any more questions?
Yeah, I think Vikesh has just posted one.
Sure.
You can read it, Rajni.
Yeah. So he is writing that he has experience in risk advisory, primarily into internal audit-related assignment. However, he's looking forward to move his career into corporate finance or M&A. So with the help of CFA, will he be able to transition into the new role? He's already done with his 2 levels of CFA and preparing for level 3.
Right. So Rajni, I'll ask you to answer that then. I'll chip in later.
Yeah. So you know, this transition becomes sum total of many factors at hand. So generally, you know, at least from the Indian context, these transitions are possible within the companies itself. So if you are, you know, if you have already done, let's say XY number of years of experience, and you are planning to shift to a new role in another company, you might have to sacrifice your experience a bit in that case. So you have to evaluate your trade-off. If you want to move to a new company, are you ready to sacrifice that kind of those many number of years of experience? Or another option is that, you know, you move internally. That can be a good move to go to a new role.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, a lot of the time when you don't have the experience, it's probably best to move within the company you're already working in, because they already know you, you know them, and move into adjacent areas, right? If it's a large enough company or group, and, you know, if you have good relationship with the people there, I always advise people, rather than try to jump into EY or PwC or, you know, whatever, Morgan Stanley or whatever, try and move into, you know, from risk advisory or internal audit, try and move into, for example, financial analysis or FP&A. And then from there, trying to move into maybe research. And then maybe from there, move into, you know, fund management or portfolio management slowly, right? What you call adjacent moves. That might help you. But that all depends a lot on the goodwill that you have with your colleagues and your bosses and your teams, right? The organizational politics plays a huge part in that. So hopefully you haven't made any enemies in the company they work in. Okay. And hopefully people like you, where people's skills come in a lot. In which case your boss won't hesitate recommending you, and other department heads won't hesitate taking you in. That's actually the best way to do it. And then you can grow within the group, right? That's probably the easiest way to sort of move out of internal audit. Sure.
So we can wrap up our session now. Thanks a lot, Binod. And you know, the way our session has exceeded the time, I'm completely sure about that. You know, people have taken a lot of practical insights from your conversation today, and definitely they will go back and apply and feel more confident in their professional life. And I sincerely thank you for taking out time to do a session for CFA Society India.
Can I just add, Rajni, that so I've mentioned before, there is a website, therealfinancementor.com. There are lots of blogs, book reviews, and podcasts there, lots of valuable information. All the podcasts come with full transcripts, which means you don't have to listen to the podcast, even if it's 1 hour long. They actually a transcript of what questions I asked and what the interviewee answered. And a lot of them are with CFA chart holders, senior guys, portfolio managers, analysts. There's a lot of insight there, career tips, upskilling, everything. So a lot of your answers will actually be there. Feel free, it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, everywhere. So do log in. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. Like I said, please follow me. You can send me an email to my address if you have any queries, binod.shankar@gmail.com. And that's pretty much it. I'm afraid we run out of time now, almost 2 hours, right? It's supposed to be a 1 hour session, almost gone 2 hours, but fantastic talking to people and very glad. You know, normally people just post questions in the box and I never hear their voices, right? I never see them. Yeah. So it's good to finally.
That's the unique about our series.
Yeah. And I'm going to plug for CFA India Society here because not because I come from India, but CFA India Society does a lot of brilliant work. And I've said that on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. They are large, they are growing, they are well managed. They have a very strong leadership team and staff group as well. They had about 116 events in 1 year over the last 1 year, webinars, conferences, challenges, competitions. I mean, if you have any ambitions to be in asset management, the wealth management, equity advisory, in India or otherwise, you have to be connected to CFA India Society. Membership is only about 2,500 rupees a year, which is a steal. I mean, in dirham terms, it is like nothing. Okay, in Indian rupee terms also, it is negligible. But you network with some of the finest fund managers, analysts. I mean, in India, right? I mean, the president and CEO and chairman, or maybe of CFA India Society, is who? Navneet Binod. Navneet Binod is
CEO of HDFC Mutual Fund.
Exactly, he's the head of HDFC Mutual Fund, right? We have some serious heavyweights as part of the board of CFA India Society as volunteers, and I would strongly urge you to stop being shy, okay, and start living in your little bubble and come out, connect to CFA India Society, pay membership fees, attend events, and network with people, right? Because people hire people. People don't hire CVs, okay? This is the way world works, okay? So I think that is my plug for CFA India Society. They have some fantastic events. What's the next event, Rajni? Any idea?
Yeah, Shaumik, you would want to chip in here?
Yeah, Shaumik, could you say something about what your event calendar is, possibly, if you could, over the next few weeks or months?
Yeah, so I think, we are having the Corporate Governance Summit, this is our next marquee conference, focusing on corporate governance issues, corporate governance practices in India. So speaker list, again, we'll have an impressive lineup of speakers. The details are going to be out very soon on our social media handles. So keep following us, keep following our emails. This Corporate Governance Summit is scheduled in the last week of November. And also, I would say, for all our events, for our entire events calendar, the best thing to do is to get on our mailing list. We send out the weekly flash newsletter to every Tuesday to all our members. So if you are a member, then you will be getting the weekly flash every Tuesday afternoon. If you're not, the best thing I can suggest is become a member, and you can attend all our events for free throughout your life.
Yeah. And CFA India Society has this fantastic annual one-day event called the India Investment Conference, which I've been attending for the longest time. It's been face-to-face, but last 2 years was virtual. There's another flagship event that they have in India as well, right? Fantastic, with great speakers, including at one point they had Ashwath Damodaran as well. I remember in 2012 January. Yeah, he was speaking in Mumbai. One more point, I think, guys, on the chat box we have the presentation. The link to my presentation has been posted there. So please download the presentation before the session ends. My PowerPoint presentation. So all what I talked about, education tips, career tips. I think Shaumik or Rajni must have posted it, or Vidhi probably must have posted the link a few minutes ago, right? So please download the presentation from the link.
Few participants asked this query, so Vidhi has posted it.
Exactly. So please download that before the session ends. Also, after the event is over, sorry, you would get a feedback survey via email. So please fill in the survey and let us know how the event was and how it can be better organized. and how the speaker and moderator were. And please give Rajni and myself 5 stars. No pressure, right, Rajni? No pressure whatsoever.
Completely democratic.
Completely democratic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So I think that's it. Rajni, you want to wrap up?
Yeah. So I thank each one of you for taking out time on Friday evening and joining us. We will come back with a new guest next month. So in the meantime, you start applying whatever you have learned in today's session.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rajni, for hosting this, and also Vedi and Binod. Great to talk to you again.
Great, guys. Syed, Subramaniam, Anusha, Gaurav, right? Anna, everyone I talked to, fantastic talking to you. Subramaniam, great. Please apply what we learned today. Don't sit back. Time flies, and opportunity doesn't wait for you. So please work on those, and wish you all the best. Thank you so much again. Thank you to CFA India Society for organizing this fantastic session.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye,
guys. Bye.